Today we continue chapter 6 of SD 41. It was SD 41.6, Dasaka Chetana Karaniya Sutta. The tense needless of intention discourse. The reference is A10.2. Now let me explain a bit about how we title the suttas. We follow whatever is given to us in the text. Usually the sutta names are there, especially the longer ones, the better known ones. But in the case of the Digha Nikaya and the Majjhima Nikaya, the sutta names are all there. But even then, sometimes the names may vary according to the various communities. For example, in the Western Pali text, we have the name Singalo Vada Sutta. As in the Sinhalese version, we have Singala Vada Sutta or Singalaka and so on. So that is why it is good also to know the numbers, the numbering, the reference numbering of the suttas. The sutta titles becomes a bit more complicated in the Sangyutta Nikaya and the Anguttara Nikaya, and also most of the fifth Nikaya, that is the Khuddaka Nikaya. Very often we are not sure of the names. Of course, we can have a good idea or some idea of the names in what is called the Uddana, in the something like the colophon at the end of each section of the suttas. So what we have tried to do in the Sutta Discovery series is to give a name to every sutta that we have translated, and also of course translated names. And where you find names are common enough, in other words they appear elsewhere, different sutta but same name, we give disambiguata. Disambiguata is a big word simply meaning a prefix or an infix that makes the title unique. So in this name, you can also see it on the whiteboard, you see the word Dasaka in brackets. Dasaka Chetana Karaniya Sutta. So Dasaka here means the tens, decades, or decades as they're called, decades. And if you look at the Anguttara numbering A10.2, A10, that means the book of tens, 10 items, or decades, or decades, and it's the second sutta. In other words, Chetana Karaniya Sutta also appears elsewhere. You have another sutta of the same name in the book of 11, so that's called the Eka Dasaka Chetana Karaniya Sutta. So here, rather than using the big word decades or decades, I've simply used the word tense with the S, the tense, needless of intention, discourse. So in other words, this particular sutta, needless of intention, discourse, is found in the book of tense. And you can also know, you look at the numbering A10.2. Okay? Next thing is we try to divide up the long name like Chetana Karaniya. You have Chetana, one word meaning intention, and then Akaraniya. So there's a letter missing there with apostrophe. Here Pali is a bit tricky, right? So we have to decide how to resolve the compound, how to break up this long word. Of course, it's possible to break it up Chetana Karaniya also, but the sense won't be right. Because from the sutta, the what should not be done, that's the sense, Akaraniya. What should not be done or need not be done. Chetana Akaraniya. There is no need of this intention. In other words, in this sutta, the Buddha is telling us about the nature of meditation. You don't think during your meditation. This is another very important understanding we must make about meditation. Meditation is the renunciation of thinking. From thinking arises views and worries and problems. It is thinking that prevents us from learning. People who do not know Buddhism, they're very eager to know Buddhism, and that eagerness is a very wonderful thing. That eagerness makes us want to learn whatever we can know about Buddhism. But after we begin to know a lot of things, over the years, as we grow older, we think we have known a lot. And that's when we might begin to harden and think, wow, we have known the right thing. And we start arguing with people, or we think only we have the right view, other people have wrong views. This is not to say, of course, everyone is right or everyone is wrong. The idea here is not to be in conflict with others as far as possible. At the same time, we have to be courageous to say what we believe is right. And here again, it's not easy. One safe way, or one easy way if you like, is to depend on the suttas and to say, this is what the suttas say, or better still, this is what I understand what the sutta is saying. Then again, you find that although we might be very sure what the sutta is saying, sometimes some other people may have better explanation. Sometimes even scholars may have better explanation of the suttas. But with our meditation, our faith, our practice, we begin to put all those pieces of the words and the meaning together, and a clearer picture arises in us. So this is where, in other words, no matter how many suttas we study, how many languages we know, how many years of study we have done, if we don't practice meditation, if we don't practice the Dharma, and if we have no faith in the Dharma, we are still far away from the Dharma. So, for example, since I've translated the Brahmajala Sutta, the very first sutta in the whole collection of suttas, I was not sure about what to say about Evangme Sutta. But I have this feeling that Evangme Sutta should be translated as a sentence by itself. That's what I heard. And then Ekang Samaya at one time, right? But all the scholars, about 10 or 20 of them, they all seem to say that if you look at all the occurrences of Evangme Sutta, Ekang Samaya, in other words, they're talking about occurrences in the early Buddhist texts as well as later Buddhist texts. And as you know, there are much more later Buddhist texts. So they say that, we must translate Ekang Samayam together with Evangme Sutta together with Ekang Samayam as one sentence. Thus have I heard at one time. But I had a feeling they were all wrong. But I never said it until recently when I read a paper by Anula, and then I told myself, okay, at least have someone who has some scholarly authority, is also a practicing monk, who now confirms that my opinion, my view is right. So then I added in this section in the translation, introductory notes to the what we call this D number 1, or the Brahmajala Sutta, on the meaning of Evangme Sutta. So this is where we can't be too sure who's right, who's wrong. And so we must investigate, find out, and then finally we have to look at the suttas. Does it make the sutta clearer to us? Does it help us in our meditation? Does it reflect the meditation? Does the meditation reflect it? The suttas it is, right? Does it make us happy? Does it help us progress in our practice? And that is how we decide what is right, what is wrong in the translations. Having said that, coming back to this sutta, Dasaka Cetana Karanya Sutta, the theme here says spirituality arises naturally with moral virtue, right? So in other words, if you really want to practice meditation, you have to keep your body and speech pure, so to speak. You have to be at peace with your body and speech. You have to keep at least the 5 precepts. In other words, there's no such thing as amoral meditation, not like the kind of psychology you have from Freud until, say, around 50 years ago, where that psychology is rife with all kinds of scandals and problems. Nowadays, we know that if you do not have moral virtue, it's very difficult to heal the mind. It doesn't mean that just because we study psychology or we are psychiatrists means automatically we're also mentally healthy. Not necessarily so. We have to understand how our mind works. We have to understand the Dharma. We have to practice meditation. Only then we are truly at peace with ourselves and we have growing mental health. So here, the teaching begins with moral virtue, sila. So the sutta is saying if you build up your sila, then you can easily go on to practice your meditation. In fact, this sutta is very short. It's hardly, it's 1 1/4 A4 page. If you minus the footnotes, it's just 1 A4 page actually. It follows a pattern of the positive dependent arising. There are 10 links here actually, they kind of go forward and then backwards. And this positive dependent arising is not new. You'll find it in other places also. Especially in the Upanishad Sutta, S12.23, for example, which is a very, very happy sutta, so to speak, because it talks about suffering as a source of wisdom. We learn from suffering. Right, but the sutta focuses on the sila, moral virtue. Let us go straight into the sutta and then I will try to clarify each of the links as we go along. Page 78, the tense, without need of intention discourse. A 10.2. Now this sutta has got no Evang Sutta because it's it's a long series of as anthology of suttas, and the Evang Sutta is given only at the start of the chapter or section. But there is a short mention, Savatthi Nidanan, originating in Savatthi, or we can also translate as Savatthi story. Right? In other words, the Buddha was residing in Savatthi when he gave this teaching. Bhikshus, for the morally virtuous, there is no need of the intention or act of will. May freedom from remorse arise in me. Right? May I be free from guilt, for example. You don't have to say that. There's no need of prayer even. But this doesn't mean that you don't need to do loving kindness meditation. It's a different kind of meditation, loving kindness meditation. There's some people who need it. So loving kindness meditation is another kind of method of practice. But here, we're talking about a different kind of practice here, where you want to get into jhana, for example. Number 2, it is natural, or it's the nature of things, if you like. Bhikshus, that freedom from remorse will arise from the morally virtuous process of moral virtue. So in other words, if you keep your precepts well, and you have loving kindness, that aspect is very important. It's not mentioned, but it's understood. You must have loving kindness. Because without loving kindness, you will never be able to practice the precepts. The first precept is not to kill. You must have loving kindness, compassion, in order not to kill. In fact, when you're loving kindness, it's much easier to practice all the 5 precepts, all the Vinaya rules. Bhikshus, for the one free of remorse, there is no need of the intention. May gladness arise in me. pamojjang me upajjati. Right? So if you have your moral virtue, so your mind is free from guilt. When your mind is free from guilt or remorse, you don't have to say, may gladness. This is a kind of a basic joy. You're not amounting to pity or joyful interest. May gladness, simple happiness arise in me. You don't even have to say that. It will come naturally. So here we have keeping the precepts, moral virtue. You don't kill, you don't steal, you don't commit sexual misconduct, you don't lie, you don't cloud up or your mind or get drunk. You feel free of remorse, guilt-free. Then if you feel guilt-free, you feel a sense of relaxed state, kind of good feeling. That's called gladness. Pamojja. Now pamojja and mudita are very close. A sense of joy. Simple joy. 3. It is natural, bhikshus, that gladness will arise for the one free from remorse. Bhikshus, for the one with gladness, there's no need of the intention, may zest arise in me. Piti me upajjati. Upajjatu. May zest arise in me. Zest is joyful interest. It's a kind of feeling that energizes you to go on working. You find the wonderful people, volunteers coming to the Buddhist centers, temples, serving the monks. They never seem too tired because they feed on joy. Not just the temple food, but they are joyful, full of faith. And these are the real people who actually run our temples. Without them, you have no temples. Without them, there'll be no monks, no nuns. There'll be no Buddhism. Because they serve the teaching, they serve the teachers, they serve the temple with joy. So this joyful interest gives us the energy to work whatever good we want to do. So in other words, whenever you feel you need to have strength in doing this work, you must have joy. And one way to have joy is to have loving kindness. This reminds me of something very interesting I read about meditation. Meditation helps us to feel joyful, to put it very simply. And when you feel joyful, you are able to work better. And this is one of the reasons why the corporations, why the companies, why Google is trying to use Buddhist meditation. There is something today called Google mindfulness. We have to be very careful about such terms. Watering down Buddhism. So, what is wrong here? Well, Google is marketing meditation, saying, oh, if you do this meditation, you can succeed in life. Google is trying to take over everything. And there are some people in San Francisco recently who are not very happy that they actually get crashed into this gathering, this so-called Google Mindfulness seminar, and kind of make quite a ruckus to show their disapproval. Why does Google and other commercial groups take an interest in Buddhist meditation? Because they know if they can get their workers to feel happy with meditation, they will work better for the company. So what's wrong with that, you might say? What's wrong is they're using Buddhism for the wrong purpose. Because the purpose of cultivating joy in us is to free our minds from work, is to cultivate loving kindness, cultivate mental focus, samadhi, and attain awakening in this life itself. So this is where, in other words, there's a fine line here, how we're supposed to use meditation. So it's tricky. So this is where we have to think very carefully how meditation is used in a spiritual way. not in a commercial way, not to water it down. The meditation we learn should bring us back to the source, so to speak, back to the Dharma, not to make Google prosper or some worldly organization become more successful and powerful, or to build an empire that is rich and widespread. So joy is a very important aspect of our life. This joy should be used and shared with our loved ones, the people around us, the people we meet, the people we teach, the people we communicate with. That is the purpose of joy. And most importantly, this joy should be within us so that we can continue with our practice, never giving up in the face of challenges and adversities. Practicing Buddhism today is harder than, say, 30, 40 years ago. 30, 40 years ago, less people knew the suttas. More people wanted to know the sutta, but now the suttas, the books seem to be everywhere, and everybody seems to be an expert. And so they stop learning. Once we stop learning, then we hold on to dogmas. Once we stop learning, once we say I'm right, that's a dogma. So this is where, although we may know a lot of things, we still keep an open mind, because the other party, especially with wrong views, they tend to hold on quite strongly to their views. So we have to use lots of compassion, very gently, to broaden up their mind so they can see more broadly the context of how they think and why they hold to those views and so on. So coming back to zest, joy. Let's read number 4 now. It is natural, bhikshus, that zest will arise for one with gladness. Bhikshus, for the zestful, there is no need of the intention or the desire, if you like. May my body be tranquil. Kayo me pasambatu. May my body be tranquil. Now this is interesting. From this kind of sentence, we know the meaning of pasadi. It has to do with the body. Okay? So here, apparently the mind becomes joyful first, and then the body becomes calm. So that's how we, of course you have to sit quietly first, then the mind is still, and then the body becomes more still. Right? When the body becomes more still or completely still in meditation, that's called pasadi. So you don't need to wish for that. It's kind of naturally one thing leads to another in your practice. The idea is to start right. Number 5. It is natural, bhikshus, that bodily tranquility will arise for the zestful. Right? So if you feel joyfully interested in your work, you have piti, or maybe you're not doing any work, you're just meditating, you feel joyful, and your body also at peace with yourself. If you're doing work, let's say reading suttas, proofreading the sutta translations, or translating the suttas, then you find your mind's at peace, your body also is at peace. Bhikshus, for the one tranquil in body, there's no need of the intention, may I feel happiness. Sukham vediyami. Right? So, happiness naturally arises. So here we come back to a mental feeling again. Right? So pamoja is a kind of simple joy, you might call it that. And then the body also becomes calm. Body and mind become calm and peaceful. You have sukha, comfort of body and mind. 6. It is natural, bhikshus, that happiness will arise for the one whose body is tranquil. Bhikshus, for the happy, there is no need of the intention may my mind be still, or may my mind concentrate. Here there's concentration, samadhi, you can translate as becoming still, if you like, okay? Cittam me samadhiyatu. You can't be meditating and say, may my mind concentrate, may my mind concentrate. You're praying, you're chanting, you're distracting yourself, okay? Because you're using words. When you use words, you think. When you think, you use words. Then you're not focused. Again, when you say focus, not really very helpful, but you say the mind becomes very still. You have a better idea what is happening to the mind. 7. It is natural, bhikshus, that mental concentration will arise for the happy. Bhikshus, for the mentally stilled or mentally concentrated, there's no need of the intention, may I know and see according to true reality. Yata bhutang janami pasami. Yata bhutang. Things as they are. What does that mean? What is, or what are things as they are? Very simply put, impermanence. We don't see impermanence. Wherever we go, in a urban place like Singapore, you see tall, big buildings. You see new buildings coming up. There are 2 new buildings coming up at the same time, right? Next door to our own flats. One is in a school and the other is a nursing home, multi-stories. So we have the idea that, wow, these are new buildings, and the concrete seems to be lasting and permanent. Yes, maybe this will last even beyond our lifetime, but it's not forever. All these things will change. And then you travel to Malaysia, or even just to, say, Pulau Ubin, you see all those kampongs, the houses made of wood, and you see the wood are rotting. And you see, if you look carefully, some of this, even the cement building or concrete building, you look more closely, you will see some kind of rot. Some buildings, they have not painted it for some time, you begin to see the decay. Buddha Gosha in his Visuddhimagga says, we don't notice impermanence in our body because of our change of posture. We keep changing our posture, so we don't notice dukkha, we don't notice suffering. So in our environment, social environment, we seem not to notice impermanence. Why? We use makeup. Or we dress ourselves nicely, we wear wigs even, and we seem to appear younger. But those with sharp eyes, they can know, say, wow, look at this person, who's actually very old. So this is where we can try to touch up things, try to hide impermanence, but it will still be there. So we have to notice all this, accept this, not to resign ourselves to all this. Of course, we can still keep the place clean, maintain the place, but the important thing is to remember that change will come, especially to us, to this body. And if we reflect in that way, then we won't be troubled by the changes when they come. That's the idea. Number 8. It is natural bhikshus that the concentrated will know and see according to true reality. So in other words, if your mind is calm and clear, if your mind is calm, still, it will become clear. If it is clear, you will easily see true reality, which is impermanence. Or if you like, the 3 characteristics: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, non-self. One leading to the other. It is natural bhikshus that the concentrated or the mentally still will know and see according to true reality. Bhikshus, for the one who knows and sees according to true reality, there is no need of the intention, may I be dispassionate, or may I let go of defilements. Here the verb is a very simple one. Virajami. It is natural, bhikshus, that the one who knows and sees according to true reality will be revulsed and dispassionate. In other words, it will be one who has let go of defilements. So here the very powerful word is revulsed. Revulsed. Here, revulsion sometimes is, this word sometimes, nibbida, is translated as disgust. Very powerful word. Some scholars find that the word is disgusting. So they thought, wow, we should not use such a word. This is so strong. Meditation teachers tell us that's the way things are. We should not cosmeticize it. One teacher even was forthright enough to say, if it is dung, you have to call it dung, because it will smell just as bad. Or on a more simple level, fire is fire. You hand your fire, you'll be burnt. So here, in other words, using a very simple analogy, once we get burnt by fire, we will never put our hand into it again. So that's the meaning of nibbida, or revulsion. In other words, if you really see the nature of impermanence, the nature of dukkha, unsatisfactoriness and non-self, if we really understand all these three, we will never have any more attraction to all this. But we don't see this. We may see impermanence, but it's difficult for us to see suffering, definitely difficult to see non-self. So for lay people who are busy or enjoying sensual pleasures, we should at least reflect, see impermanence, which is easily noticeable. Maybe suffering even. We will notice these things, just that we find it hard to accept. But impermanence is easier. So we keep on reflecting on this nature of impermanence, seeing impermanence, accepting impermanence. Maybe this will lead to stream winning. So once we understand impermanence, we will not be cheated anymore, not easily cheated by what we see around us. So this is a simple version of nibbida for lay people like us. We try not to make a big deal of the world. There's no big deal to make here. What's the point of quarreling over property? What's the point of quarreling over wealth, over titles? What's all this running after titles? Running after fame and greatness, wanting respect, and so on. The eight winds, in other words, they blow us back and forth, back and forth. So very often we forget, even the Dharma teachers forget. Because Dharma teachers can become very famous quickly, and when they are famous, it's very easy to forget what the Dharma is about. So that's when we have to get down from our Dharma seats, get down from our lecture stands and so on. And remember, we are all seekers for awakening. Number 9. It is natural, bhikshus, that the one who knows and sees according to true reality will be revulsed and dispassionate, or who has let go of defilements, in other words. Because this last sentence talks about higher level, like arahatut. Bhikshus, for the revulsed and dispassionate, there's no need of the intention. May I realize the knowledge and vision of liberation. Right? May knowledge and vision of liberation arise in me. May I awaken, in other words. May I understand the true nature of reality. May I see for myself the true nature of reality. So there is a seeing personal experience and there is the understanding of it. There are lots of other great holy men in other religions who do see all this impermanence. sometimes they don't have the words for this, but they try to write this in poetry and various forms of writing of their experience. And many of these wonderful experiences go beyond their own sacred literature, their own holy books. And this is where if a Buddhist who is trained and experienced meditation, when they read such record of this wonderful spiritual journey, especially of the religious mystics, they say, oh, we know this one, it's very familiar. This writer is talking about meditation, jhana, especially the example of St. John of the Cross, for example. You find Buddhists will understand the text better than the God-believing Christians themselves, because what John of the Cross is trying to explain actually is an experience of jhana. The problem here is whether he himself understood it or not is again a problem, because he does not know Buddhism. So this is where religious dialogue may help. And I do see in the centuries to come where people are more open to religion. So here you find all the other religions are practicing some kind of mystical practice, meditation. They find they can't distract this. And when they study the Buddhist text, they say, wow, we have all this terminology and accounts of all this meditation, and they become very familiar with these things because they have experienced it. So we may be Buddhists, and if you don't meditate, you will never taste the Dharma the Buddha has tasted. And when these people are not Buddhists, they are so devout in their practice and they attain all these higher levels, they begin to understand what the Buddha is teaching. So who is going to get enlightened first here? Of course, when people awaken, when they're enlightened, there are no more labels, right? They become stream-winners, once-returners, non-returners, arahants, free of all labels, free of religion. Right? So this week I've written a reflection called "Be Buddhist, not a Buddhist." A Buddhist, a Hindu, a Christian, a this, a that. When you have this A in front, it means one, a statistic. And you're going to follow a group, you're a member of a religion. But if you really understand the teaching, it's better to say, I'm Buddhist. In other words, there's no more numbering here. It's an experience of what the Buddha himself has experienced or been close to. This as far as words go, of course. So we have to, in other words, go beyond all this, the words of the teaching, the sounds of the teaching, to the actual experience of the teaching itself. So that comes to your own practice and realization. And lastly, number 10, it is natural, bhikshus, that the rivals and dispassionate who has let go of defilements will realize the knowledge and vision of liberation. Right, so that's the last one, and then the cycle reverses. Thus, bhikshus, for the rivals and dispassionate, or one who has let go of defilements, there is the goal and benefit of the knowledge and vision of liberation. For the one who knows and sees according to reality, there is the goal and benefit of revulsion. For the mentally still or the mentally concentrated, there is the goal and benefit of knowledge and vision of true reality. For the happy, there is the goal and benefit of mental stillness or mental concentration, samadhi. For the tranquil, there is the goal of happiness, the goal and benefit of happiness. For the zestful, there is the goal and benefit of tranquility. For the glad, there is the goal and benefit of zest. For the remorse-free, there is the goal and benefit of gladness. Wholesome, virtuous conduct has the goal and benefit of freedom from remorse. So this last body goes in reverse. From number 10 goes back to number 1. So in other words, one leads to the other. Okay? Thus, bhikshus, one state permeates one another, one state fulfills another for going from this shore to the beyond. So here, in other words, we're on page 79. So here, in other words, the Buddha is saying, in meditation, you don't have to wish for anything, you don't have to plan ahead, you don't have to think, because if you think, you're thinking, you're not meditating. So all these stages come naturally one after the other, in other words. So the sutta ends here. Okay, what we'll do is we'll close this study, and then if you have any questions, we can continue from there. Okay? Whenever we reflect on this, whenever we study the sutta, it's our opportunity to look within ourselves, to see how we can connect with the Buddha's teaching. So the suttas are like tools for us to put together all that we have learned so that we become at peace with ourselves. And then we reconnect to the Buddha's teaching so that we are more calm and peaceful, and we find the answer within ourselves. So awakening, in other words, is kind of letting go of what encumbers us in this life, renouncing our body, then our thoughts, and finally even the peace that arises in our minds. Then we have liberation. We awaken to a new kind of life where we understand body and mind more clearly. Reflecting in this way, we create very wonderful good mental karma. With the power of such karma, may in this life itself we attain mental peace, joy and success in every way. Above all, may we attain spiritual liberation, especially stream winning in this life itself. In this moment of peace, to let us share our loving kindness with our teachers, from those whom we have learned, and also may our loved ones be well and happy. Those who are working for Buddhism too, may they be given renewed strength to continue to study the Dharma and brighten up the lives of others. And may those whom the Dharma have not touched too, they may see the Dharma and be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.